Secretary of State nominee Rex Tillerson at odds with his presumed boss on a whole bunch of issues. A lot of them coming during the confirmation hearing. What happens when the cabinet isn't really reflective of the boss? Then Trump and the media. He went after a whole host of folks, most notably CNN. Wouldn't even take a question from him yesterday. Will that type of behavior impact how the press covers him and what we will and won't learn from this new administration? Also, the Republican-led Senate moving ahead with its plan to repeal Obamacare, but do they have something to replace it with? Evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. More confirmation hearings on Capitol Hill today. Defense Secretary pick General James Mad Dog Mattis facing questions from the Senate Armed Services Committee. CIA Director nominee Mike Pompeo, he's down the hall with the Intelligence Committee. And Trump's pick to lead HUD, Dr. Ben Carson, also testifying before a Senate committee today. Senator Elizabeth Warren questioned whether any HUD policies would benefit Trump, since Trump is, in fact, in the real estate business.
Can you just assure us that not $1 will go to benefit either the president-elect or his family?
It will not be my intention to do anything to benefit any American.
I understand that.
It's for all Americans, but everything that we do.
Do I take that to mean that you may manage programs that will significantly benefit the president-elect?
You can take it to mean that I will manage things in a way that benefits the American people. That is going to be the goal.
Okay. Everybody, though, is still talking about what happened yesterday. That 9-hour hearing with Rex Tillerson, Secretary of State nominee. He was hammered by, of all people, Marco Rubio and others, primarily on the subject of Russia. Again, here's the Florida Senator, Republican, of course, who ran against Trump in the primaries, posing some very pointed questions.
Is Vladimir Putin a war criminal?
I would not use that term.
Do you believe that Vladimir Putin and his cronies are responsible for ordering the murder of countless dissidents, journalists, and political opponents?
I do not have sufficient information to make that claim.
None of this is classified, Mr. Tillerson. These people are dead.
Tillerson and Rubio not seeing eye to eye, and Tillerson also disagrees with Trump on a host of issues, important ones. He's against the spread of nuclear weapons. Trump wants more countries to get nukes. Tillerson also says Mexico, a friend and neighbor of the U.S. Trump not exactly seeing it that way, saying that Mexico is sending us, of course, those rapists. And, of course, he wants to build that wall here and have the Mexicans pay for it. Tillerson is for free trade, and he's also for the Trans-Pacific Partnership here. You heard a lot about that during the campaign. Remember, Trump being completely against that. Tillerson acknowledges that climate change is real, heaven forbid. Trump says it's all a hoax. All right, let's bring in our panel right now. Michael Tobin, he's an independent political consultant. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author. Nan Hayworth, former Republican congresswoman from New York in the Great Hudson Valley. And Andrew Whitman, our senior political correspondent. Okay, of the names we've talked about, for the most part, I think there's going to be clear sailing and most confirmations. Obviously, we spoke earlier this week about Jeff Sessions and still some real questions. And a lot of people with a lot of questions as to whether or not he's the right person to be the top law enforcement official.
He had a lot of African-American supporters, too.
Oh, he had a whole lot of opponents as well.
Yeah, but some very moving testimony
I also,
by people who know him well.
Yes, but I also did put a lot into what Representative John Lewis had to say. The same man who was beaten on Pettus Bridge, who knows Alabama well. He also knows his record. But more importantly to me, Nan, what's going on? A host of them today. Pompeo, how he described how he views Russia, very different than what his boss is in terms of intel gathering, waterboarding, and the rest. He disagrees completely with. While that's healthy, we're being asked to take a major leap here. That what they say now is how they'll practice with a boss who clearly is odds with their policies. So I have a broader question.
Sure.
When you're looking to confirm someone, and obviously, man or woman, you're looking to see if they have the right qualifications. When you were there and you listened to some of the hearings, did you view them as an extension of their boss? they're expected to carry out the policies put before them. And by and large, with very
Okay.
limited times in American history, do they push back on what their boss lays out as policy?
Well, Richard, last I checked, this was not a dictatorship. So I
You know
think
the
it's
opening you'd give me for a joke there, but go ahead. Yes.
it is wonderful. It is heartening to see that these distinguished nominees, because each of the men, they happen all to be men today, whom we saw being interrogated by these senators, felt free to express his learned opinion on these issues. They are not in lockstep with the presentation that the president-elect has made
Okay.
about various issues, but the president-elect nonetheless selected them and supports them. And isn't it healthy and wonderful to have that kind of diversity of views represented in that cabinet?
We are presuming here, as they say with no facts and evidence, that Trump has a policy that he will pick and stay with, and he knew what the policies were of the nominees that were chosen. But nonetheless, Andrew, do you
Richard, that's
believe,
inherently unfair, as
I think
you
it's
know.
completely fair with what we've seen. We'll
and
talk
it's
about what he said
inaccurate.
yesterday,
And
too.
you can respect Donald Trump's judgment far more by looking at what his nominees are and what they say. That will tell you that this
wait a
is a
minute,
man who's
Congresswoman.
confident in his judgment and
Congresswoman,
confident in what they're going to do.
Serious question. How should we base what we think of Donald Trump? Is it, as Kellyanne Conway says, on what's in his heart? Is it the things that comes out of his mouth? Is it the things that's on his website? Is it, as you're saying now, the things that his nominees say in confirmation hearings? Because those are all disparate answers in many cases. So which Donald Trump would you have us believe?
I would look at what he has done. What he has,
hasn't done
he has a
anything yet.
record. He has a record of. He's 70 years old, Richard, as you know, and he has a record of remarkable success and accomplishment throughout his life, based on pragmatic views of the
you
world,
can't-
business, how to negotiate,
You
how to
don't wanna go
transact.
there.
He is not an ideologue.
First of all,
and I love
he was
that.
a Democrat 5 years ago.
Okay.
Okay.
Your point would be what?
He's also got about 60 some odd lawsuits against him, including from
Any-
attorney generals for fraud. Okay.
Anybody
So
in business has
he also
lawsuits
said he
against
grabbed
them.
women in a certain anatomical part. I'm not going to talk about it.
I'm not
tr-
even
you
relitigating
want
that.
me-
That was an
you don't
asinine
want to, but you want
comment
me to judge
that
him
was
on that.
that was done in a totally different context. We're talking about a man who follows. We have had 8 years of an ideologue at the
Oh, my
helm
God.
of the United States
Due respect,
government.
we're talking about the incoming president and
Yes.
trying to figure out what exactly his positions
Exactly.
are on a number of issues. You're saying that
He's a realist and a pragmatist.
Okay, but towards what end? And that's the question, because you're saying we should listen to what his nominees say, but
Towards what end?
but his nominees are saying different positions than he's saying,
What did
or
his
that he said
nominees-
during.
what fundamentally did his nominees say?
Well,
what
they clearly
said
look
was,
at Russia as an enemy. And yesterday in the press conference, President-elect Trump said that he wants Russia to like us and get along with us. He would
Okay.
not. He would not commit to additional sanctions against Russia, even though he acknowledged in the same press conference that they did hack an attempt to churn our democratically elected most important electoral process.
Just
Among
the way
other
that-
things,
and should-
time out,
should
he
Israel-
also
should
said...
Israel abandon the United States because Barack Obama and his administration
What?
overtly tried to turn the election in Israel against
talking
Benjamin
about
Netanyahu?
Barack Obama.
Well, that's
We're talking about-
exactly- I mean,
we're talking
you
about
know.
Donald Trump.
I don't know what the next president is for right now, and I also don't
Look
know
at
if
what
he's
his
on the same...
nominees are saying, because
Well-
what President-elect Trump has done is participate in a lot of very vigorous,
Okay.
vivid political rhetoric.
Yesterday-
you look at his cabinet nominees, and you will know what his administration is going to
no
do.
one
Different
because-
things than he is.
These are men of
Michael.
character, and they are not going to be duplicitous.
It is encouraging to see the nominees to these important posts, these top-level cabinet posts, disagreeing. And I think what we are seeing shape up is we're going to have a figurehead in chief, we're going to have a tweeter in chief, we're going to have a bully in chief, and in some cases, of course, you know, he'll call all the shots, but there's going to be a big difference between what he says and then what actually goes on. And I think we're seeing more of what the administration is going to look like with his nominees
But let me give
than
you
we
a specific
are
example.
with him.
I saw the testimony today of Congressman Pompeo. Okay, I thought he acquitted himself very well.
He did.
Answered a whole host of questions, and at least 4 examples systemically disagreeing. Most importantly, with his soon-to-be boss on his view of the intelligence community. Less than 24 hours ago, Mike, the president-elect compared Nazi Germany, okay?
I
And
know.
this guy's saying the heroic and long hours and commitment of the intelligence community, while his boss, less than a day era, compared it to the worst thing we've seen in modern humanity.
Which confirms that candidate Trump and now President-elect Trump,
still
and we
seems
hope
to be
he
candidate
does
Trump.
seem that what he says, if a nominee were to say it in front of the Senate, would make them unconfirmable. So it almost, of course it matters what the president-elect says, and of course it matters what he'll say as president, but it just needs to be taken as word salad and some synapses misfiring, and then, because you can't be head of the CIA, you can't be head of the State Department and hold the positions candidate Trump had. Now, you're shaking your head, Congresswoman, like this is a good thing. This is a horrible thing, but it happens to be the situation
I think
we're
Donald
in.
Trump is voicing, think of him as the id of the United States at this point.
No.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
not true
He is
whatsoever.
voicing-
Every poll
he has
reflects the
voiced-
majority of America does not agree with him on
He has
that.
voiced the incredible frustrations of Americans who have
Factually
seen
untrue.
they're not true.
Factually untrue.
Then
There
how
is
did-
no
how did he
data that
win the
supports and he speaks for the
election,
majority of
Richard?
America on how they view the intelligence
How
community.
did he win
They
the
don't view.
election?
No, he does not speak for the majority of America on how they view Russia as friend or foe to the United States. He is not the id of America. He is a person with a Twitter account.
His political rhetoric has been vivid indeed because Donald Trump, again, he has experienced great success politically by speaking the way he speaks, okay? But he understands
So it is Nazi
pragmatically
Germany? It is
as
like
an
Nazi Germany, the
administrator.
intelligence
No, but he
So wait,
understands
why don't we take that
as an
literally if he says
administrator-
it?
Well, you can't take it literally.
He's the president-elect of the United
What
States.
you take seriously is what he has placed in front of the Senate for confirmation, meaning whom he has placed.
So they're
and
in charge,
what they
not
are
him.
saying. They and he will obviously collaborate.
There's one commander-in-chief. Now, Dominic, here's the part that I found most fascinating yesterday about Tillerson, who, again, I thought acquitted himself pretty well yesterday under it. However, Marco Rubio pointedly, and by the way, I thought it was a little patronizing. He was talking about Cuba, by the way. He thought that would help, I think, with both Menendez and Rubio, and it clearly didn't. But anyway, he said, okay, and he pressed him on what he thought of Putin and what he thought specifically Putin had been party to in Syria and in other places, let alone the aggressive encroachment in Ukraine, etc. He said that last night. He hadn't made up his mind. And my point is, when we do the math, if he opens the door for Graham and McCain, who've also been very critical, not just of Tillerson, but of this administration, and they're moving for more sanctions to be kept in place on Russia. And then, of course, Trump makes jokes about Lindsey Graham and his 1%. My point is, how big of a crack do you think there might be with people who haven't forgotten what Trump has said and done, and now they have 6 more years. They don't have to worry about re-election next year.
It's real. But Marco Rubio is also the same senator that said he would not run for re-election. So when he ran for president. So what I'm trying to say, Richard, is that we have a lot of posturing going on amongst the senators that are asking the questions, amongst the cabinet members that are responding. The answer is correct. They're going to say what they have to say to get confirmed. But the only thing I disagree with here is the only opinion. There's only one opinion, especially with this man, that counts.
Right.
And it's his.
But it
So
can't be that way.
yeah, well, it's going to be that way.
Well, I think
because
I
it's
hope
going to be okay. When Rudy was the mayor of New York, was it by committee or it was my way or the highway?
It was his way or the highway, but we had an incredibly competent Joe Lotus for
Exactly.
deputy.
That's
We
what
had
Donald
That's
Trump
true.
is doing.
Here's the concern. In
That's what
8
Donald Trump
days,
is doing.
Donald Trump is sworn in as president of the United States. And nobody,
You just put your finger on it.
in all due respect, nobody knows what we're getting. Nobody knows what policies he's going to push for.
do.
No, we don't.
No.
Again, the differences between what he said on the
himself so
campaign
many
trail,
times.
what his nominees are saying,
he has-
even Kellyanne Conway is saying, don't listen to what's coming out of his mouth. Listen to what's in his heart. Congresswoman, what's in Donald Trump's heart? You don't know. You don't know.
Look,
and
this
neither
is-
does anybody
this
else in the
is-
country.
this
And that's where we
you
are.
cannot
be very careful to look there,
okay,
yeah.
categorically, you cannot be as successful as Donald Trump has been without being a great judge of the people with whom you work. Sorry,
Are you
just
kidding me?
can't.
I don't care how successful he's been. I care about
Look
what
at-
direction he wants to take this country,
All
and
right,
we
I
don't
gotta
know
take a
what
break
it
here,
is.
guys. And
we
here's
can
the
take
media
part
thing. We'll
in the
keep
people
just one
he's
second.
nominated.
So, did CNN do the right thing when it reported on the allegations against Trump in Russia. Trump says it's fake news, but even Shep Smith, of all people at Fox News, said his competitors got it right. A divergent set of opinions on whether or not this journalism is good journalism. Stay with us.